get up and go to my Father, and shall say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus, but the Pharisees and the scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to be one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend to the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more to eat, more food to eat? But here I am, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up, and he went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. And then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back he neared the house, and he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, all these years I served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughtered the fattened calf.' He said to him, 'My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, Deacon Pete had suggested I tell you that I'm the prodigal son that has returned. I hope you didn't mean by that it's after a life of dissipation. The prodigies, okay. Anyway, the real reason I've come is because I'll be offering the mission this week. We have the 3-day mission, as you know. And to kind of introduce what the theme for the mission is, I'd like to do a little survey. So if you remember your mother's ever telling you that if you have a cut or a wound, you need to leave it open to the air and it'll heal faster. How many remember their mothers saying that? There's a few people remember that. How about this one? If you eat carrots, you can see better. How many remember that? Lots more, okay. How about this one? if you eat lunch and you want to go swimming, you have to wait an hour or you'll have cramps. Everybody remembers that. You know what's common about those three things? None of them is true. No, and the fact is that when we are in our teen years and we discover that some of the things our parents told us are not true, we begin to wonder what other things might not be true. What about that rabbit that runs around this time of year, or the fat man in December? So we begin to wonder what else is not true that we were told, including our faith. What about God? What about all the things we were told about God? So it's natural for us to have questions, and throughout our teen years and into our young adult years, we have lots of questions. Now that's a normal process, and in fact it's a necessary process. John Henry Newman, who will be canonized a saint fairly soon, said, 1,000 questions do not make a single doubt. There's a difference between questions and doubts. You have to have questions in order to find the truth. And Pope Paul VI said in his letter on evangelization that the evangelizer, the person that wants to share his or her faith with somebody else, must face their questions in order to find the answers, in order to share them with other people. So we need to use questions that come to our minds and aggressively look for the answers if we're going to be able to share our faith with others. That's different from having a doubt. A doubt is already more biased. It's a suspicion that what we've been told is probably not true. It can even be motivated subconsciously by other kinds of biases. For instance, if I don't have to believe in God, then I don't have to keep the 10 Commandments, and I don't have to have my lifestyle cramped so much. Or if I don't believe there's any real value to the Mass, I don't have to get up on Sunday mornings. A doubt is not as open to the truth. And so it's the questions that we want to look at, the questions that we want to find answers for. During the next 3 days, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, we are going to be looking at the 3 fundamental questions that every Catholic must answer for himself or herself in order to be a convinced and committed Catholic. Tomorrow night, we're going to be looking at what are the reasons for our believing in God. Tuesday night, what are the reasons why we think that Jesus is God? Wednesday night, why do we believe that Jesus founded the Catholic Church? So, belief in God, belief in Jesus, belief in the Catholic Church, those are the 3 fundamental questions from which all of our other beliefs come. It's important that we recognize the role of faith. We heard the story about the prodigal son, and we saw in the gospel where the father actually goes out to meet the son. He doesn't wait for the son to come all the way home. He runs out to meet the son. God is more eager for us to have faith than we are to be able to have it. God is more eager for us to know the answers to our questions than we are to know what those answers are. And so we can count on the grace of God to lead us to a greater knowledge and a greater belief. This mission is going to be one of those opportunities that God offers us to have that kind of faith. Having faith is a natural part of our life. Leonardo da Vinci believed that people could fly someday like the birds in the sky. He had all sorts of designs that he created, which he thought might work. Science at the time did not have the technologies to offer which could make those designs work. He even designed the first helicopter that didn't have a way to make it work. In spite of the fact that human knowledge was limited, he believed it could still happen. In spite of the fact that our human knowledge is limited, we still believe in the things that have been revealed to us. So we invite you to come over the next 3 evenings. Each session is a prayer service beginning at 7 p.m. with a talk in it in which we will be explaining the reasons for our faith. Jesus said, the person who believes has eternal life. What we're going to see is that we don't have to abandon reason in order to have faith. Now let's profess our faith with a creed. I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one